Hey folks, I want to show you something, and I get a kick out of this something wicked. You know I'm from the East Coast when you say that something's wicked, or it's a wicked pisser, and that means it's a good thing. But around, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe a little longer than that even, I used to hunt and fish with this dude, and he was all about the big labels, you know, $400 Orvis fly rod. And we'd go fishing and I'd catch just as much fish with my $13 telescoping eagle claw. And like I said, my bow, right? My bow is a $199 bow from 1998, and I get plenty of deer, and I got my bear with it. It's fantastic. I have a $13 sight on that bow with one pin. Anyway, we were looking at boots, and he was buying these wicked expensive boots. And I don't mind spending a lot of money on something if the money is really going to make that much difference to justify the expense, you know? Nowadays, even a pair of rubber boots is crazy money, and they don't last really any longer than they did when they were cheap. So, I was buying, some of my stuff was a little bit pricey, but most of it wasn't. So, at the time, I think it was paying like $275, just over $200 for the boots, and that was 20 years ago, all right? And I was down at Walmart, and I got these cheap Brahma, right? Brahma, that's Walmart brand. These cheap Brahma boots for $19.99. My intention was to just wear them in the early season. If I'm hunting around the swamps, I wear rubber boots, but I'm not always doing that. And after breaking my ankle in the woods, I wanted some ankle support. So I bought these, not with great expectations that they were going to be the best boots in the world, because I know what Walmart stuff is. But I have had these boots that long. They have not torn. Right? I keep them oiled, but the reason why they've lasted that long is because I don't wear them as work boots. I don't wear them hunting and then go and wear them everywhere else and wear them out. I wear them during early season when I don't need a real heavy boot, and then I oil them and I put them away. I mean, you can see they're old, okay? You can see that stuff's all kind of discolored and worn off. $19.99. And I've gotten, I'd have to say, over 20 years out of them. And I was wearing them when I got that 6-pointer there a few weeks ago. So, my cheap Chinese crap, because that's what everybody said, is still going strong. Well, folks, back in the kitchen here. I hunted this morning. Didn't see anything, but yesterday evening hunt, I saw a deer. It looked like a big-bodied deer, but I only saw it for a minute, well, less than a minute, probably about 10 seconds. But I was at a distance and didn't get a crack at it. Couldn't tell if it was a buck or a doe, but the size of it, probably a buck. But it's today, finally get a nice day. I was going to hunt, but I've been working on the solar a little bit since I got out of the woods this morning, and now I've been trying to take care of my domestic stuff here. It's been getting out of hand. So I got a pound of my venison burger. I'm going to put in a couple eggs. I have some onions left over from my salad when I was chopping my onion up. I got some diced tomatoes with roasted garlic and onion. And I don't have breadcrumbs, but I have panko. First, I'm going to beat up a couple of eggs here. I got some minced onion. Even though I'm putting in fresh onion, the minced onion throws a nice flavor to things. Dehydrated onion, some pepper. Always have pepper in there. Some salt. I'll throw in some panko. Yeah, something like that. A bunch of these tomatoes. My onions. Yep. And my venison. Once again, should have used a bigger bowl. But I'm getting it mixed up okay. Kind of making a mess though, too. So I got these little baking dishes. So I might have to make 2 meatloaves. I like having chunks of stuff in my meatloaf. A lot of times I pour the soup in it. Doesn't matter what kind. Chunks of potatoes, all kinds of stuff. Kind of the way I grew up with the meatloafs. They had a lot of stuff in them. Usually had rice in them. You know, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we stretched meals with rice, noodles, stuff like that. Here we go. That'll get up to temp in no time. 2 little loaves. 1 for supper, 1 for breakfast. Here we go. Well, I can smell it, folks. Ah, that looks good. That looks just yummy. I'm going to shut them off. Yeah, that cooked up nice. Nice little meatloaf right there. Smells really good. Yep. Held together nice. Yeah, man. Looks like supper.
There it is, man. Number 2. Season's off to a good start. Pretty decent. Probably maybe a 4.5-year-old deer. Maybe 3.5. He broke his brow tines off either sparring with another buck or just rubbing really hard. But I'll still call him an 8-point. Yep. Now the work begins, man. Well, people are so out of touch with reality now. They watch homesteading channels because they want to see people that are living self-sufficiently, that whole self-reliance thing. They want to see that. They admire it. But then they watch a guy like me processing wild game, turning it into some nice table fare, and they'll go, oh, I can't watch that, or people will unsubscribe because you killed an animal, you know. And I see it in the comment section all the time. They'll go, oh, I had to fast forward that part. But then they'll be at the grocery store walking down the meat aisle, and you look at all the meat there, which this is meat, and they look through the glass and they see the butchers in there all covered with blood, and they're working on carcasses just like I am here today, and they don't bat an eye. They're in such acceptance with that, but they can't handle this because it's a domestic animal that, well, they're grown up to be slaughtered. They're so out of touch with reality, you know, and that's the way the world is now. They do that and then they leave a stupid comment.
Over the last 2 videos, there was lots of questions and comments come in. A lot of questions about the deer and about the meat and how I process, and a lot of questions about the solar. There were a lot of comments in my last video where people were saying, oh, I wish you would have shown how you hooked it up. What did you use? I didn't do a tutorial there. That was just a vlog. And the vlogs are mishmash of different things. They're just little glimpses into our life of what we are doing. It's been quite a while since I've done a Q&A of any type. But there were so many questions come in these last 2 videos. I'm just going to address a few of them here. So the solar, when everything is done and all my switches and fuses and everything is in place, I will answer all of those questions visually. You will see everything that I have done for my system. But as far as like the deer, lots of people, do you add fat to it? Okay, with the burger, I grind it straight because that's how we use it. All of that ground venison goes into recipes like tacos, burritos, lasagnas, meatloaf, shepherd's pie, you name it, anything that has ground meat. And in those applications, you don't need any fat into it. If you try to make a burger patty, it's going to be really dry because there's no fat. It's really like 100% meat. And it wouldn't make a good burger. But most of the time, if I want to eat a burger, I want a greasy, dripping beef burger. I want a Big Mac, all right? Something like that. I have made plenty of burgers with venison. Just take a pound of bacon and get it almost 100% frozen, very stiff, all frozen together, but not, hot as a rock. And then cut it right across the pack, all right? Like in 1 inch, and you feed that into the grinder with your venison, and you get bacon burgers, and those are pretty darn tasty. For sausage, now lean sausage is horrible. All right, if I can get my hands on some pure white pork fat, I will do about 30% pork fat, 70% venison for the sausage. Pork fat's hard to get, so get the pork butts on sale. Depending on how fatty the pork butt is, generally 40 to 45, sometimes maybe even 50% pork to venison for sausage. Just happened to hit it lucky today. We stopped by Hannaford's, and just what I was hoping for, the pork butt, $99 a pound. This looks like really a fairly lean pork butt. Usually there's like a 1/2 inch of fat on one side. There might be a little bit on the bottom, but these look fairly lean. So we'll probably use about 45% of this pork with the ground venison. 99 cents a pound. I mean, look at this chunk of meat, folks. That big chunk of meat right there was $6.30. So I'm going to get cutting it up, and then we'll be grinding it up and making some sausage. Yeah.
You saw that I was cutting the deer right up. People, you know, you don't let it hang, you should let it hang, all that kind of stuff. For myself, and I'm not telling you how to do yours, but for about 40 years, I cut up the deer right away. I let it hang for a few hours, and then I cut it up. For one thing, it's a lot easier to skin when the carcass is warm. And if you wait until rigor mortis sets in and then you cut the deer up while it's in rigor, well, it's stiff and it's harder to work with, and the meat becomes very, very tough. It doesn't matter much if you're grinding it, and grinding it is mostly what we do. We keep the back straps and the tenderloin and maybe a few cuts here and there, but we grind the deer up. So that doesn't really matter much. If I had a climate-controlled meat locker, perhaps I would let it hang. But probably not, because the way that I do it, cutting them up right away, the meat is fantastic, and I have that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude. So I'd probably keep on doing what I'm doing. People ask what the scraps, you see that little pile of scraps, what do I do with those scraps? Well, some of that gets cooked and fed to Tildy a little at a time, but as long as I have freezer space, we'll fill baggies with it. And then we put them in the freezer. And then in the wintertime, we put that out with the bird seed. You know how we love to feed the birds. We love the birds. So I put that out, and it's really good protein for the birds in the winter. It works on the same principle as you put the suet out. But this is better, because if one thing, it's natural, and there's some meat in there as well. So the woodpeckers, the nuthatches, chickadees, and the ravens, they all come for that. All right, so that's what I do with that stuff.
I put the carcass out expecting to feed the ravens. They are scavengers and opportunists, which never miss an opportunity to scavenge. But surprisingly, a hawk was the first on the scene. Now I know they are birds of prey, and what they prey upon is meat. I just never expected them to scavenge some up, but this one did. Then a raven appeared like I had expected. But unexpectedly, he's here at the same time as the hawk. Then they started to dine together. And where two can feed, so can three, so better hop to it. Now the hawk is outnumbered, but they dined together like they were old friends. I'd never believe it if I didn't see it myself, and I got it on camera. Then a third raven appeared to get in on the grub, an opportunist, like I said. And then a fourth raven came to take advantage of this bountiful opportunity. It was interesting to observe their individual characteristics. Some preferred carrion, and others preferred carry out, like this guy. Everyone got along. That's until the buzzard showed up to crash the party. Oh, they didn't roll out the welcome mat for him, so he tried to look tough and puffed out his chest and shoulders like those morons that try to look as big as they think they are. You know what I mean. Well, those intimidation tactics aren't working here either, buzzard. So buzz off!
Frankie and the boss out walking in the woods, living life happy and free. Tracks in the snow everywhere they go, there's a pokey way up in that tree. A beaver built a pond where they have some fun, taking life a day at a time. Best friends until the end, Frankie and the boss. Frankie and the boss. Frankie and the boss.